I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies, lovely crisp blue skies over West London. Jules, not so good over Old Trafford.
Nope.
We'll be getting to that, but there's so much going on. We have new league leaders in La Liga. We have a draw at the top of the Serie A table between Napoli and Inter. Madness in Milan, Leverkusen dominating again, fights between teammates, and it's all coming together. Lucho's master plan for Paris Saint-Germain. Anyway, we'll get to all that.
Hope so.
But we have to start at Old Trafford. And I don't want to make people feel like we're picking on United. And I debated, what should be the biggest story this weekend? Real Madrid losing or United getting knocked out of the FA Cup? And we settled on this.
Yeah.
Because I saw little teeny tiny signs of progress. In the end, it's hard to escape all the negatives, though. 7 straight Premier League games at home at Old Trafford. They go a goal down.
Yeah.
Not a Premier League game, this one against Fulham, obviously, but it happens again.
Yeah.
And in the end, they're bounced out. And I said they should focus on the trophy, the FA Cup or the Europa League. It's only path into Europe. Now one of those two is gone.
Yeah, it's only really the Europa League left. They've got their first leg, last 16 tie against Real Sociedad in Spain on Thursday night. And okay, we saw Real Sociedad being battered by Barcelona, but with 10 men for almost 80 minutes. But it's not going to be 2 easy games at all, home or away. And you said that you saw a bit of improvement maybe in that second half after Garnacho came on, but I also thought that Onana made big saves in extra time, for example, and before the penalty shootout. So I'm not sure exactly how much they're improving and where they're improving, but they have no certainties, that's for sure, and they keep making the same mistakes, that's for sure, and they're still not creating enough with the ball and scoring enough anyway. Even if you look at, okay, defensively, this is not good, we know. Happy birthday, Harry Maguire, by the way, it's in 2 days' time. But you're still not very good, and defensively, they are not very good. But even offensively, even with Garnacho, even with a better Zirkzee, certainly before the shootout, even with Bruno, he's still not good enough, I think.
All right, this is what we talked about. We talked about how like some of their better performances this season came against Arsenal and Liverpool, where, it's maybe easier to get your defensive organization straight in the 3-4-2-1. So I thought Fulham was going to be a challenge because he's a much smarter. I mean, he's not saying he's much smarter. He's a really good manager.
Yeah.
The Fulham manager, Marco Silva. Like he's really, really good.
It is good.
And games like this, he knows how to play them. So I worried for United having to go and attack them, and was kind of vindicated a little bit in the first half, even though I did see some improvement. But then they concede, and that goal, and I'm thinking to myself, how do you let the opposition have 2 touches like that where you're standing, where you're standing still? And Calvin Bassi, by the way, Italian born, not quite bred, but still we claim him, born in Aosta.
You're allowed, for sure.
Even though he plays for Nigeria and grew up in England, but still.
Yeah, still. And it's another goal considered on set pieces since Amorim arrived. The most of all Premier League teams, they just can't defend set pieces. And that was the case again, because you can have a good corner and you jump over me and I still mark you and you beat me up in the air. That's fine. It can happen. It could be a one-on-one challenge. This one is just you fall asleep. You're not ready. You're not on your toes. It's terrible defending from start to finish.
This is switching off. This doesn't have to do with set piece coaches, set piece defending. There's nothing fancy. No. Credit to Fulham that they took that. The equalizer, again, Bruno doing Bruno stuff.
Yeah, the Dalot-Bruno combo is very often what works for them.
So the Dalot-Bruno combo works. Zirkzee, you were praising, even though Mark Ogden doesn't like him.
Yeah, but Ogden is not a flair football fan like us, Gabby, that's why. But yeah, I thought there was improvement. Because he missed his penalty, and that was what cost them even, I guess, more than Lindelof, because if Zirkzee had scored, they still would have had a chance if Onana had saved the last Fulham penalty to do something. But I feel that with Zirkzee, maybe that would just knock out even more of his confidence that was already pretty low because he hasn't done as well as he should have, I guess.
I thought it was interesting. I don't like Bruno in front of the back four. I know why he's there.
Yeah.
I did think that, this was... I put it this way. I was surprised to see Eriksen in there. I'm assuming there's got to be fitness issues as well. I see no... Or unless maybe he thought, maybe he followed our advice and says, put all our eggs in the basket, and Eriksen with his experience is going to make the difference. But, Jules, so many players out for Manchester United or suspended, like our boy Patrick Dorgu, that you can't, I feel like you can't really fault the lineup choices too much because his options are limited, with one big exception. Or possibly two, because I guess he could have played Casemiro and Ugarte in midfield, but then there would have been nobody to pass the ball, right? The exception being Garnacho, right? There was some issues with him down the tunnel in the previous game. He brought him on. When you go from Eriksen to Garnacho, you're choosing two totally different profiles of player, right, in that role. What's your take on this? Because I don't have a problem with Garnacho off the bench.
No, although he's one of your three best players, right? So for a game like this, who is better than Garnacho?
No. I'm questioning the fact that they have three best players as opposed to just one best player. Just kidding.
No, again,
just
maybe
kidding. I'm being unkind.
No. But so you could question. So the way I saw it when I saw the lineup, and I had a feeling that it would be the case, is he sanctioned him. Okay, you throw a strop? No,
Yes.
And then you went straight down the tunnel.
Yep.
When you were subbed off in the Ipswich game, I didn't like it. It's not the right image, all of that. So arguably was what was one of the best games of the season because, as we said, this is Europa League and FA Cup where you last hope for something actually positive this season. So for one of the biggest games of the season, you drop him to the bench. And then because you realize you made a mistake, but you know how much better this team is with him, you bring him on after 50 minutes because you need him so badly because your team is not good without him. So you could question that, although this is maybe just the authority that a manager needs to have at a club like this. Okay, maybe not. The issue I have more, Gabby, is that he's been here since November. Now we are in March. And this idea that he still doesn't know what the best combination is in midfield, or pretty much everywhere outside of maybe the back three, is just doing my head in now. Surely by now you would know that Ugarte Bruno is the best call. Then Højlund as a 9, and then Zirkzee.
It's Ugarte Bruno.
But then he still keeps changing, Gab, and we still see different things all the time. And I'm just like, settle to something and then play them together longer term or mid-term because there's not many games left anyway.
I think long term, it's Bruno is at 10. Short term, because nobody can pass the freaking ball and Kobbie Mainoo is out. Mm-hmm. Not that Kobbie Mainoo is necessarily right for that position.
No, because he said himself he should play as a 10. That's his best position.
That's great. But he needs another Ugarte busybody, but ideally one who can also pass. Which, big ask, right?
Yeah, they're not easy to find.
So he has to play Bruno there. But I don't think he wants to play Bruno that far away from goal. I don't think it makes sense. I think in this game where he projected that Fulham were going to be more defensive, and he's like, all right, we're going to have a lot of possession in the opposition half, so it's okay to have Bruno in that role because he's still going to be close enough to the goal. You have some license to get forward. Eriksen's a smart guy. He can pass a little bit. Maybe they play 1-2. Eriksen will cover for him. I think this was his view of how the game was going to plan out. And I don't fault him because I think that is that's kind of what you expected to happen. What I think with Garnacho is I think they do really have an issue. And this is a big call for the club to make. He's obviously a very gifted player. They're obviously committed to Amorim in the long term. There is no role for Garnacho in terms of what we've seen so far in the 3-4-2-1. It just doesn't work, right? He hasn't learned to play in that 2 yet. So
yeah, but it still makes a difference when he comes on in that position. So
yeah, when you're scrambling and chasing the game.
It might not all be lost still.
He's got a long-term contract on a very small wage.
Yeah.
And that makes for an unhappy player. That's why I thought they really had a shot to move him in January, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So again, priority number one, as we look ahead, I play Garnacho almost every game the rest of the way in the Premier League and see if he can learn the movements of that number 10 role. Or it's not easy. And it's not easy because of the chaos around him. It's not easy because he's got Højlund in front of him with all his limitations.
Yeah, and also because he's a winger and he's played wingers all his life and he's difficult to transition, I think, from there to an inside 10.
Yeah,
which is normal.
it is. But I also think we need to. I mean, Trincao did it, right? Like, it takes some application. It takes good coaching.
Yeah.
And it takes you want to be able to do this. And I refuse to believe that a guy from Argentina does not want to be a number 10. Or that Garnacho didn't play number 10 when he was a kid, right? When you think he spent his entire career running up and down, presumably he was the best player,
Yeah, but when you have pace and skills like him, you play wide naturally, and the way you receive the ball wide is different than the way you receive the ball as an inside 10.
No, I understand.
That's why I think the transition is not easy. I'm not.
But there's two 10s. Like, there's different ways to interpret it.
Sure.
And I'm more interested in actually in what he does off the ball more than on the ball, right? Because there's a lot of fluidity to that front three. And if you see United play in person with Garnacho on the pitch, there's massive holes. Like, people just, when he's on the pitch, there is no effective press. Not because he's bad or stupid, but because he hasn't worked out. It's very obvious.
Mean, the press, I disagree with you on the press. The press is all about coaching. And if you coach the press well, anyone can press well.
But he hasn't been able, do you agree that he hasn't been able to do that yet with Garnacho?
No, I think Amorim has been struggling to get a good pressing pattern together, full stop. Whoever is on the page, Garnacho, no Garnacho, Højlund, no Højlund, they can't press, they don't press well. Yesterday in the second half, when they were still a goal down, there were times where Fulham were just playing with them. And that's Fulham away, Old Trafford, and Fulham are a good team, but it's still only Fulham playing with them because the press was so disjointed, so everywhere. And that's the press. But we've said it many times on the show before about Amorim and United. You teach a press, you coach a press. We can all run, and at that level, especially physically, they are monsters, all of them. They can run and run and run. They are very strong, all of them. So it's all about how you coach a press, and he still hasn't been able to do it efficiently. That's why they're still all over the place when they try to press. I agree with you. I don't think Garnacho's mindset is about let me recover the ball 5 seconds after I lose it. I don't think he's one of those that is not really
You had a manager before this who built his whole career at Ajax over a quick recovery from the press.
True, but he also struggled to implement it. But you're right. I think it's an issue.
I think we have to give some credit. Actually, no, let's pick on United some more.
Yeah. Lindelof, do you want to do Lindelof now? What is it? Just to finish on Garnacho, because Garnacho really should be in your top 5 penalty takers. We agree on this.
So he should. However, I learned from my nerdy commentator that I was listening to on television that Lindelof scored the winning penalty in some European under-21 game 10 years ago. He
scored in his last 2 penalty shootout. It's not because he scored in the last 2 that he's going to make it 3. He's still Victor Lindelof. He's still not very good technically. And I know taking a penalty...
It's a different skill, taking a penalty.
Still. Did you think, like me and the whole world, when you saw Lindelof moving with the ball, he's not going to score here? Did you?
Yeah, no, I kind of did. When I saw his face.
We all did. Whereas when Sonderberg or Anthony Robinson stepped up, we all knew they were going to score.
Anthony Robinson was almost too loose. Dude, what are you doing?
But with Lindelof, I know he scored in his last 2 penalty shootout. You knew he was going to mess it up. And I just don't know why Garnacho is not taking one of the top 5 penalties. And you want to be a top player, you want to be a leader, this is part of your responsibility, I think.
There's more negativity, more people railing about Ratcliffe. We've picked on him a lot. I wonder, at what point is there a scenario? I mean, the Glazers care because it's hurting their investment, right?
Yeah.
I wonder, and the clock is ticking. I think he has 2 years left, 18 months.
Yeah.
And then,
they might renew this kind of agreement.
Yeah, but then at that point, but they're not going to keep renewing it if United keeps sinking like a stone, right? True. But for now, it suits them. It suits them perfectly. I wonder what point is Ratcliffe gonna maybe walk away and get bored with this and say, "All right, screw this."
Well, and sell his shares.
He doesn't need to sell his shares. He just hands the club back over to the Glazers to run. And,
I
and
know, but the whole idea is that this is the club that he supported as
okay,
a kid.
but that's a stupid idea.
But no, because
right?
he wants to be
That-
part of running it.
Yeah, no, and
Why
he
would
says
you,
that, and he builds a
but no,
stadium.
but why would you spend 2 billion and then have a chance to be part of running it and then not running it?
First of all, he hasn't spent
Well,
$2
no,
billion.
but his company. This is still his company.
It's 1.3 billion.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure they financed that money. But I don't know, maybe because the rest of his empire is taking hits left, right, and center.
True.
Because he's older. Because I think he's discovering that it's not fun getting all this abuse continually.
It's not easy. It's not easy either.
It's not easy. I know you're running your marathons, but you're still a man in your mid-70s. Maybe you have other interests in life.
Do you think he underestimated the task at United? That he thought, this is what I've done all my life. You know, I've been successful in every move I've made everywhere all the
Nice
time.
was fabulously successful. He nearly went bust several times.
Nice was not a disaster.
You know what? This whole
Nice
success
was not a
thing.
disaster.
No, I'm not saying it's a disaster, but this whole
but he
I've
did-
been successful at everything.
But
It's no.
It's
He's had no. He's not. It's not true. He's had his butt kicked a bunch of times. He nearly went bust several times. He's
Ineos is still worth a fortune. The valuation of Ineos is super high.
The valuation is high, yeah, but even the fact that even the fact that he's taking a reputational hit time and time again, I don't know. I think it's got to wear on you, right?
Yeah, no, maybe. I just wonder if he underestimated the task and if he thought I can go do what we do for normal business with cuts and making things better financially, putting the right people in the right place. And I think Jean-Claude Blanc is good. Dan Ashworth, we can debate.
I'd love to know what Jean-Claude Blanc thinks about this whole thing, because he has managed to keep his name out of. I think this is like the first.
Brailsford as well. Brailsford as well, to be fair. Whereas I think Brailsford has a lot of accountability in this.
It's interesting you say this, because my sense, speaking to somebody who's quite familiar with the club, is that Barada has kind of put Brailsford in a corner to play with his toys and his like Project 21 or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the clout that Barada has.
You still see him at every home game, so he's there. They show his face. He
Yeah,
looks like no, but it's true. He looks like
the large egg.
No, but he does. But he also looks like the guy is invested, and look the disaster that it is so far.
It's an interesting one. We have to give some credit to Fulham. In fact, a lot of credit to Fulham.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm a big fan of Marco Silva.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him get another chance at a really big club. When Fulham fans don't get angry with me, when the time is right.
Mm-hmm.
What I like is that he said it, but I think he also backed it up. They're prioritizing the FA Cup in an age when so many teams are worried about the Premier League position. And you can say, look, it makes sense because they're not going to qualify for Europe by the Premier League, and they're not going to go down. So this is really important. And I think this is what you want. The enthusiasm that they've generated around this team among their fans. And admittedly, there aren't many Fulham fans, but there are some, and they're noisy.
Sure, of course. They've never won any trophy in their whole... they won the championship title.
I think they won League One as well.
Yeah. But never a League Cup or an FA Cup or anything. They obviously lost famously a European Cup final. Not the big one, but still they lost one. But this would be amazing for them, and it would just be a reward, such a nice reward for how well this season has been going. Because really, their ceiling is that. Their ceiling is ninth, right? I don't think they can finish top 8, even when some of the big clubs are underperforming, like United and Spurs. This is probably where they are at right now with the squad that they have and the money they've invested in the summer, for example. So the FA Cup, at the draw, do they play the winner of Forest and Ipswich in the next round?
Do you think I have
Maybe.
any idea? The FA Cup draws last night.
Because it's so open, they play Crystal Palace in the London derby in the next round at the end of March in the FA Cup in the quarterfinals. So it's open because Bournemouth plays City as well. One of them too.
I think it's kind of neat. Now, television executives who paid money to screen the FA Cup, including our bosses, might be a little bit annoyed that, look, of the big 6, there's only one of the big 6 left, Manchester City in the competition. Personally, I think it's great, and it's really good for the Premier League as well.
And great weekend.
probably more so. And look, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but there's one championship team and 7 Premier League sides, right? Well, there will be 7 after tonight. Some people say, "Oh, but where's the romance of the team from League Two and blah blah blah?"
Preston are still there.
Are they in League Two? No, they're in League One.
No,
aren't they?
they're in the Championship.
No, I know, but I'm saying is they're the only ones, right?
Yeah, but still a
that's
smaller
fine.
team.
I don't need more than that because I'm not saying this in a negative way. I love it when the small teams upset the big teams, but I also don't want to see small teams come out, and we'll get to it in the City game, and they put 8 guys in the 6-yard box and hold out as long as they can, right? I don't think that helps anything. And the worst thing is, they often put those games on live TV in primetime hours, and you're hoping for the upset, but then the big team scores first, and then all of a sudden the game becomes a complete dud, right? So I think this is a nice balance. I think it's wide open. And you know what? I might actually be getting a little bit excited to watch the rest of this FA Cup. Jules, one more thing. Wayne Rooney. I just don't laugh.
Because I know you were not too much in agreement with what you said.
Yeah. Wayne Rooney was on television and he said that Ruben Amorim and United are naive. Amorim fired back saying, "We're not naive." I just want to ask you simply, should Amorim be wasting his time turning this into a thing? Amorim versus Rooney.
But he was asked the question, right? He was asked when Rooney said this, "What do you think?" kind of thing. So he has to answer. The naivety comes because I didn't really see. Not that I don't care.
They're naive because they lost. Because
they should stay solid first instead of trying something.
No, I don't think there's that much sophistication to it. I think you take these ex-players, you put a microphone, not all of them, but some of them, and look, big team concedes goal with bad defending. Oh, that must be because they're naive. It's not. Right. It's not naive. It's not what the word means. It's just I think in their minds, because they all left school when they were 15. Not all of them, but many of them. This one certainly did. They think naive means rubbish, right? I don't. It's just not the word. You can criticize Amorim for a million things. Yeah. He hasn't been able to teach us football. The results have been terrible. But one thing Amorim is not in a million years, naive.
Yeah.
It just doesn't apply.
No, but I think what he meant was
it's like saying Jose Mourinho is very tall and can dunk. No, it's just not true.
No, surely he meant before trying to play your style of football, and we go back to this style and substance debate, which is very interesting, make sure you win games, even if you win ugly, instead of trying to do your thing, which clearly the results are not following. Surely he meant that, no?
I don't want you're deciphering Rooney better than I can. But even that argument, to me, really doesn't make sense. First of all, there's other coaches who did exactly that, and it didn't work out for them. I'm thinking of
Pep Guardiola didn't win anything in his first season at City.
Right, which supports the Amorim way of doing things. Yeah, exactly. Or Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. First season, or a counter argument. Maurizio Sarri, in his first season at Chelsea, he decided, look, let's all defend and not play sorry ball and, just give the ball to Eden Hazard and wait for him to do something. Yeah. And they win the Europa League and it's like, you're gone. See ya, off to Juve you go, right? In the black and white stripes. So I don't know that that's the right approach either. Obviously you have to get buy-in, but the players aren't stupid. You don't get buy-in by getting results while playing crappy football. I think he had this situation where he took over the season. All they were looking for was progress rather than trophies this year. And he's doing the right thing in terms of, I'm going to try to implement my system. Yeah. Now, it may not work. He may be the wrong choice, whatever. He may not be able to. But, yeah, I don't know. This kind of stuff just bugs me.